June 9th, 2016, open and closed session special meeting minutes, and the June 16th, 2016, open and closed session regular meeting minutes, approval of the June 20th, 2016, and July 5th, 2016 payrolls, and approval of the closed session minute meeting summary.
Would you speak into the microphone, please? We can barely hear you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second? Second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Kozo?
Aye.
Mrs. Glatz?
Aye.
Mr. Lulo?
Aye.
Mr. Kirking?
Abstain.
Mr. Costick?
Abstain.
Mr. Lucetti?
Aye.
Mrs. Molinari?
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to awards presentation recognition. Mr. Riley?
We have big news, 3 big pieces of news out of Illinois in the last 2 weeks. If you remember at the last board meeting, we had the targets flying all over the place, and we talked about hitting a moving target. They gave us a target, and so that's a positive for us. They've gotten rid of the park test in high school, which is a huge plus for us, time-wise, effort-wise, allows us to focus. They've changed from the ACT to the SAT for the state test. We'll talk about that. And then we got our AP results, which are better than even expected. So I'd like to run through that with you a few minutes tonight. So here's where we are. The state just announced a few days ago that park testing would only be a grade school 3 through 8, which is great. We are over-tested in the high school. That's perfect for us. What it does mean is that our state test, where schools are compared, is going to go back to a college test, an ACT or an SAT. That was the debate downstate. They chose an SAT primarily because of price. I think that's significant. But we are in the SAT business now for a while. What we have to do is walk carefully because we're so good at ACT. It's been something we've thrown ourselves into. We'll talk about the differences. So we've got to balance this a little bit. We'll look for similarities. We'll drive home the skills that are on both tests. But we're not throwing out our ACT prep, but every junior in Illinois gets a free SAT for the next several years. So that's where we're playing. Because of that, it makes that PSAT that we're going to offer the 8th and 9th graders, the incoming, that's a predictor, like the Explorer used to be for the ACT, makes that more important. We want to give PSAT opportunities for our 9th and 10th graders because it's a practice SAT. It gets them in that arena where they really haven't been much before. I didn't realize that fewer than 40 kids in our district take the SAT. We have thousands that take the ACT because it's what the Midwest has asked. So we have some game changing to do. So the no park in Illinois high school is pretty significant. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but a really nice article in the Trib by Diane Rado in the last few days explained that what we had been complaining about as school people for the last 2 or 3 years was exactly right. The problem was they didn't give the same test. They didn't test every freshman in algebra or every junior in Algebra 2. So because schools were able to pick and choose, and we always wanted to do our freshmen, because that's the least invasive. We want to leave junior year alone. That's the year we need them to concentrate on AP and ACT. So that was significant. So when they compared schools last year, basically they said, what we told you is there was no way to compare us to Lockport to Joliet because some did online, some did on paper. Some did Algebra 2, some did Algebra 1, some did geometry. And so this is welcome for, I think, about every high school in Illinois likes this. So there's an article you can take a look at. I thought it was pretty valuable, and it mentions the state paid SAT, which kicks in next spring. That's powerful. I wanted to show you some results, though, and this will be the only time you'll ever hear me say this, but I wish we had one more year of park, because that first year was terrible. It was terrible statewide. It was bad for us. The blue up there is Lincoln Way last year. So the ELA, the language arts, the reading writing test, 37% of our kids met or exceeded expectations. That's about at the state average. I think it was 35. We were a touch above. The math was very disturbing. 14.5% of our algebra kids, the state average was 17. We're not going to be below the state average. So we put in the new algebra program to begin to move kids toward not just park, but ACT and SAT, which are shifting to be more park-like. So here's what we got this year, 51% on the English language arts, and up 14%, and 35%, which is going to double the state average this year. And so that's just from the algebra program. Remember, in the past, our top math kids have jumped algebra and gone into geometry. And starting next year, more and more kids will come in. So I almost guarantee we'd be in the 50 to 60% range if we had another year. That being said, I'm kind of glad it's done. But the 21% jump's pretty remarkable. This is the big stuff that came out of Park for us. They have 5 levels, exceed and meter at the top, and then they have something called approaching. Those are kids that missed it by a few questions. Last year, our approaching number was dismal. Kids either got it or they didn't. So when you put that together in algebra, 71% of the kids either met or are within 3 to 5 questions of meeting. That's a huge jump from last year. ELA was even better, 81% of our kids level 3, 4, or 5. So we closed the gap in a year. Again, we'll see what that means. But I do know that the new ACT and SAT are more Park-like than in the past. So Park Prep's not going to hurt our kids down the line. Next big question and big news was the SAT. Our guarantee is to prepare kids for both tests. So here's our position, our promise. We'll focus on tests that matter to students and families. We never put everything on the shelf to chase Park scores. That wasn't going to matter for college. What parents care about is ACT, SAT, AP tests. That's where we throw our focus. We promise not to let ACT testing go. We've met with our APs, with our department chairs. They get it. They're going to continue to do ACT prep because that's still something that all of our college-bound kids will take. But we do know that every junior in Illinois is going to get that SAT. So we're doing a disservice if we don't start to sprinkle some of that in. ACT is still the #1 game for families in Illinois. So we're not going to chuck it, but we are going to follow up with SAT. We're going to encourage all of our juniors and most of our freshmen and sophomores to take that PSAT test in October. That's a practice SAT. It'll give us a baseline for a lot of our kids. Their first time taking an SAT-style test. That's good for us. We usually have a few hundred freshmen, maybe 300-400 sophomores take it. I'd like to see every kid take that. It's an inexpensive test, $9 or $10. They cover that, and that's a pure scholarship test. So kids that do well as juniors, they become National Merit Scholars. There's your opportunity. And here's the overlap. The SAT is reading, writing, and math, probably the 3 things that we've been the best at for years. I am disappointed with the ACT that we've been great at science, and that hurts us a little bit to not have a science component on the SAT. But we'll get there. We'll go after it. And then here's the last piece, and this is huge news for us. One of your board goals from 2 years ago that you continued for us last year, create monitor programs to serve our fringe kids, our lower end and our top end students. And so we started the Life Transition Program for our special needs kids, the Ed Options, which has got our graduation rate up around 98%, and the Advanced Placement, a push on there for college bound. So this was the goal, increase enrollment and success rate of high achieving students by more participation in AP classes. So I'm going to spend just a minute on this one and then go through them kind of quickly. You've got these in front of you. In 2015, our science tests, you can see the numbers. The AP Biology is a good one to look at. 54 tests, students average 3.6. Anything over 3 is going to get you college credit. It's a guarantee in Illinois now. So we wanted to increase everything, so there's this year's numbers. From 54 to 64. I see a really nice jump in physics, even though it's a much harder test now. And what we wanted to do was see a jump with either a stay the same or a minimal dip. Because when you bring in, as you're going to see on some of these, 100, 150, 200 more kids, they aren't all AP students traditionally, and so you might see a drop. I'm not worried about that. I love that AP physics and mechanics. 23 kids this year averaged 3.7. Nobody scored a 1 or a 2 on that test. They all got credit. So that's the way science looks. And so science, here's the summary. 177 tests a year ago, 250 this year. And it just gets better as we go. Here's math. Most exciting number on the chart tonight is that first one in Calc AB. Calc BC are our top math kids. Calc AB are our college prep math kids that want to try a calculus class in high school. We went from 70 tests to 128, and the average went up. That's huge. That's what we want to see across the board. Statistics almost doubled in the number of kids, still maintain a 3-point average. That's big for us. So 244 to 345. World language, we had a student pass the Chinese Mandarin test this year. Everybody went up. If you look at the Spanish language, from 98 to 144, and their average went up. So this is, when we're talking about pushing that top edge, the AP is the way that we've chosen to do it, and our teachers have been fantastic with this. So 151 to 207 this year. Fine arts, we've never had a big fine arts component because those are performance kids. They're not assessment kids necessarily. But we had 14 kids for the first time take music theory. 12 of the 14 got a 4 or a 5, average of 4.2. It's fantastic. And we have to continue to push our fine arts kids to take these tests. There's a lot of artists here that don't have confidence in themselves and they don't submit. But every time an artist submits, we get a 5 because our art program is so strong. So that's a push for us. Should be more than one kid in our district getting an AP art credit. So from 9 to 23, that's nice. English, about 40 on each of the 2 tests. Averages stayed fine. Another jump. And then really where it went wild was in social science. We added 3 new social science classes that we didn't have before. You can see the number of testers up there. The averages, 2 of them are in the 2s. We've got some work to do there. But if you'll take a look at the microeconomics, I love this. 2 of our students, Tim Lutz at East, Kenneth Hill at North, took the test on their own. They got a little bit of help from their econ teacher, but we don't have a microeconomics course. And they both got a 4, and they both get college credit for that. So that's fantastic. So here's the numbers. I mean, just crazy numbers in social science. 1,200 last year, 2,100 this year. So when we start putting all this together, 2,173 kids our tests were taken last year, 3,400 this year, 57% increase. That's monstrous. And then just some last pieces just to really give some credit to some amazing kids. We get a list that just came out Monday this week of what they call AP scholars, nationally ranked scholars. The list at the top are students that passed 3 or more tests during high school. So they walk into college basically with 9 credits or more. The next list, scholars with honor, walk out of here with at least 4. So they've got a full semester done of college when they walk in the door. The next one have 5 or more tests with a high average on every one. And then this last list, national AP scholars, they have to have a 4 or a 5 on every test, and they have to pass 8 or more tests while they're in high school. So if you pass 8, basically you've taken care of your freshman year while you're in high school and the money that saves. And last year we had 13, and this year we have 21. When you add up the total number of scholars across the district, 478 kids are walking in with at least a semester of college. So, bottom line, here's the kids. And we'll get this out in the papers. The 2 boys at the top from North, I would have loved to have watched them probably competing back and forth for this thing. But they both walked out with 13 credits. They're basically going in almost as a college junior. And the doors that's going to open for them, unbelievable. And so we had 21 of those students. We'll get all their names out there, recognize them. 198 college credits. And then here's the last piece. This is where the money comes in. Any AP test that scores at a 3, 4, or 5 is a graduate credit. It's a semester course they don't have to take. We passed 2,218 college courses this year, which is at $1,600 a course, which is low, is well over $3.5 million that this group of kids earned. And so really it's been a tremendous year, and that was driven by the goal and the challenge that we put out to our teachers. Can we kick it up a notch? Well, they kicked it up 5 notches. It'll be interesting to see if we can top that next year.
That's fantastic. That's very nice. Thank you, Mr. Riley. Action items. Presentation of outstanding invoices, please.
Motion to approve the outstanding invoices dated July 15th in the amount of $3,783,794.34.
Second? Second. Discussion.
I just had one question on the report with the blue banner at the top. Is that the new reports that are coming from Skyward, or it's a new format?
It's a new format, and they'll continue. Kelly's going to work on that. You'll see some different
reports this next month. We'll get those to you ahead of time so you can kind of work your way through.
Is that from the new system?
Yes, part of this is from Skyward.
Those give a lot more detail.
Yeah. Nice. Any other questions, discussion?
With the new system, Scott, will we be also be able to get information by school?
Correct. And the ability to manipulate the data is much greater in our new system. So as Kelly sends out the reports, if there's something specific that you want to see, let us know, and we'll be able to work through that. There's much more maneuverability with the new system.
Great.
It would be helpful then if in this new system it's easy enough that we could have any invoices that are 45 days or older, kind of an aging report, just to make sure that we're catching anything that isn't being paid.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Lucetti?
Aye.
Mr. Kozel?
Aye.
Mrs. Glatz?
Aye.
Mr. Lulo?
Aye.
Mr. Kirking?
Aye.
Mr. Costick?
Aye.
Mrs. Molinari?
Aye. Personnel report, leaves, resignations, and employment.
If I can refer you to the personnel report found at your places this evening under employment. James Nalon, career and industrial technical instructor. Central and East High Schools effective 8/16/2016. He comes to District 210 having taught carpentry and theater arts for 6 years in the Chicago Public School System and 1 year at Aurora East. Brittany Krabish, world language instructor, Spanish, West and Central, effective 8/16/2016. Brittany taught Spanish 1 and 2 at Plainfield South for the 15-16 school year. She graduated from North Central, has endorsements in Spanish and ELL. She was a Fulbright recipient and served as a teaching assistant in Mexico for the 14-15 school year. Rich Pagliaro, interim business manager, effective 7/11/2016. Rich comes to Lincoln Way after serving over 20 years as assistant superintendent for business and personnel for Joliet Township. He has a combined 40-plus years working as a business manager for private and public school systems. Rich will work no more or 100 days or less. He'll work with Steve in the role interim business manager. Steve, obviously, also our treasurer, will help us quite a bit. Tracy McMahon, payroll clerk, District Annex, effective 8/15/2016. Tracy previously worked for the district as the central financial secretary. She'll be returning to work in payroll. We'll have a retirement in payroll. Tracy had gone to work for another district and has gained experience in Skyward, so that will be valuable as she comes back to Lincoln Way. I ask that you accept this employment as presented.
Motion, please.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Lulo?
Aye.
Mr. Kirking?
Aye.
Mr. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Lucetti?
Aye.
Mr. Kozel?
Aye.
Mrs. Glatz?
Aye.
Mrs. Molinari?
Aye. Resignations.
Resignations, Catherine Fairbairn, Parapro, Central High School, requesting to resign from this position effective at the end of the 15-16 school year. I ask that you accept this resignation as presented.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to the approval of the treasurer's report for June 2016.
Steve, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to highlight a few items in the June Treasury Report ending out the fiscal year. Last month when we did the interfund loan, you see on the bottom, towards the bottom of all the numbers, you see I have a separate column detailing how the interfund loan was transacted between the two funds. And then also the board asked, well, how do we make sure that we know that when it's going to be due in 3 years and make sure we're on task and getting that paid. So I anticipate that we will always have that note here on the top in the green columns there, $6 million outstanding at fund loan due June of 2019. So it'll always be there until it is paid off. And we'll be presenting a plan on how to pay that off when we do the tentative budget in our discussions in August and September for the budget. And last month we said we could change the levy, to help get a surplus in the operation maintenance fund, but we also can put general state aid into any fund we're going to get over $5 million in general state aid. You could put corporate personal property replacement tax in any fund. So we may be seeing, and we're still working through the numbers and see how Operation and Maintenance Fund is going to fare on its own without additional revenue assistance. But you may see that our recommendation could be putting more general state aid in the Operation and Maintenance Fund, more corporate personal property replacement tax in combination of changing levies and expense. So we'll have a detailed plan in place on how to pay it off, and we'll probably shooting to pay it off in 2 years, not necessarily in 3 years.
Motion to approve the treasurer's report for June 2016, please.
Second.
Discussion?
Steve, on the income side, I see that there's some negative balance, some negative transactions for transportation fees.
That was with the fuel cost being so low, we billed too high to the partner districts of the transportation consortium, and then that was just correcting it. And we had reported that before, and that was the total amount that was credited back to the districts.
So that was for all districts.
Yeah, you see them listed here. You see the 3 that received money back.
122, 57, and
161.
Yes.
Any further discussion? No? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Glatz.
Aye.
Mr. Lulo.
Aye.
Mr. Kirking.
Aye.
Mr. Costick.
Aye.
Mr. Lucetti.
Aye.
Mr. Kozel.
Aye.
Mrs. Molinari.
Aye. Student activities report.
The student activities report, one thing, a significant item to report, as we're aware, our building trades account has been in the negative for quite some time. The auditors have made mention of that numerous times. Moving to a new auditor, I know Steve had been in conversation and they felt it best that we zero that account out. At your places this evening are the balances that were utilized and the amounts to zero that out. If you have any questions, I can answer those, but it came from a variety of different funds, some from Central, some from East, some from North, some of the lower accounts. Not all of our student activity accounts from North have been closed out. There are still bills that are pending. We will pay those bills. We will monitor the end of July and into August and start to close those accounts. We will look line item by line item to determine where that money will go. Perfect example is, let's just take Booster Club for an example. If the North Booster Club has 20,000 in it and the East Booster Club has 40, if we're going to move the percentage of money with the students, then 40% of that East money would be going. And then you'd have the 20,000 in. They wouldn't gain that much. So that's just an example. We're going to look line item by line item to be as fair and equitable as we can as we move those accounts that have large amounts in them. But this was the most significant move in terms of our student activity report. We are working with Mrs. Lezo and our student activity side to set the accounts and roll everything into Skyward. We'll be using Skyward for all of our POs and everything through the student activity side.
Thank you. Could we have a motion to approve the student activities report for June 2016, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
I have a few questions. So, Novell, what is Novell?
Novell is our online testing. And so when not online testing, but online coursework. So students will take coursework for remediation. They'll also take classes to move ahead. They would bring that check or that money into PPS. PPS would deposit it in the student activity side. We were then paying out of the general ledger side, out of technology. So this is a correction. Now we'll have those deposits going to the appropriate account and the payments going out then within that semester as those courses are completed. So this money was collecting over the past year and a half when it should have been collected on the general ledger side because we were paying on the general ledger side.
So out of the education fund.
Out of the ed fund, it would be, yes.
And so this amount here at the bottom, this was taken from the ed fund and put into the student activity accounts to close out the balance?
Correct. A check was written, Steve, is that the proper?
Oh, wire transfer.
Wire transfer.
We wire transferred.
So what are receipts? 6,300.
That would be if we will get that from the system. That would be like vending or whatever we had put against that account this last month. Realco, we couldn't access the report today. We'll have to contact them. This is from the old system. So receipts were anything from the last month that was paid towards the account.
Is the amount, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The last one. So are there any additional steps that need to be done in the student activity accounts that close out the audit findings from the prior year?
We'll check with our auditors, but at this point, the glaring issue was the use of the superintendent's emergency fund, which we've cleaned up this year, and then also the negative balance in the building trades. Those were the two. So they've both been remedied.
Is the superintendent zeroed out with it or no?
I think there's 6,000 remaining,
Okay.
and we're working on that now. That should be superintendent's contingency fund or district contingency fund instead of emergency fund. We can make those changes and bring them back to the board for approval.
Quick question, Scott, on so how many lots are still out there that were part of this program?
We still have 2 lots, and I'll be asking the board in discussion, my superintendent's report, to get a potential selling price for those. We still own 2 in Lighthouse Point.
Okay. And then if they were to sell, what happens with that money?
Well, if we sell that money, I believe, Steve, we put that into the ed fund.
Yeah, it's in the school code that we have to put into the ed fund.
So it replenished some of this 130,000, but the 130 was taken from last fiscal year.
So that would be replaced. Perfect.
But
That's what I want.
I think those 2 properties were showing up under the student activity account on some reports. I think they should be, if we're closing this out, they should probably be in the ed fund. The 2 properties were showing up on the financial statements.
On the student activity.
activities.
Yeah, we should move it on to the, yes.
Anything further? Roll call, please.
Mr. Lulo?
Aye.
Mr. Kirking?
Aye.
Mr. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Lucetti?
Aye.
Mr. Kozel?
Aye.
Mrs. Glatz?
Aye.
Mrs. Molinari?
Aye. The 843-2016-2017 budget.
The budget for our special ed education joint agreement was provided in the backup materials. I'll take a minute and hit a couple of the highlights on the 3rd page. Overall reduction of 16.9 budgeted staff. So reduction in staff, that's due mostly to enrollment, as many districts are bringing back programs or individual students that they can serve. If you go to the last page, you'll see our enrollment in the programs that we still utilize. McKay, our fiscal year 16 enrollment of 42, projected enrollment at 32. That will increase as the year goes on, but you'll see a variance and a savings in that category. Pioneer Grove, we go from 7 students to 11. That's the effect of students aging from 8th grade to their freshman year, and they now come on to our roles, and you'll see an increase. That increase then with the physical therapy in the next portion is also due to the physical therapy that takes place at Pioneer Grove. Those minutes are now assigned to our district. And then transportation, there's a reduction in salaries and benefits of some of the staff. We have to increase our bus monitors. Once again, a number of our Pioneer Grove students do have 1-to-1 bus monitors, and that's where you see the increase. The increase in operations and maintenance is for outstanding projects to be completed at Pioneer Grove. They're in their last year of a 10-year life safety. They'll have to go next year for a 10-year life safety, and they're working now to finish some of those projects. Overall reduction for us of about $82,000 budgeted for next year.
Motion to approve the District 843 2016-2017 budget.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Lulo?
Aye.
Mr. Gerke?
Aye.
Mr. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Lucetti?
Aye.
Mr. Kozel?
Aye.
Mrs. Glatz?
Aye.
Mrs. Molinari?
Aye. District 161, transportation agreement.
As was requested by the board, on page 4 of the agreement, we canceled out the notice to terminate the agreement. Each and every year, they have a 1-year opportunity at an out clause that coincides with the number of our bus leases, so it would not put us in a precarious situation. So it would be my recommendation to accept the amended agreement as presented.
Motion to approve the District 161 transportation agreement as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kozel?
Aye.
Mrs. Glatz?
Aye.
Mr. Lulo?
Aye.
Mr. Gerke?
Aye.
Mr. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Lucetti?
Aye.
Mrs. Molinari?
Aye. Tentative budget 2017 resolution.
Steve, go ahead.
Yes, we need action tonight to adopt the resolution with one change. Change the time from 5:30 to 6:30 towards the last italicized line on the bottom, September 6th at 6:30. Before the Building and Finance Committee meeting, and we'll conduct a hearing at 6:30, and it will go until it ends, and then the Finance Committee will start immediately following it. No action would be taken; it would just be a hearing, and then we're planning on, as you see the last item in the table there, the chart, adopting the budget on September 15th at the September 15th school board meeting the September 30th deadline. The tentative budget, we with this schedule, and the tentative budget has to be on public display 30 days before the hearing. So August 5th is 31 days before the September 6th hearing, and then we'll put a legal notice prior to August 5th as well, to meeting a 30-day requirement that there will be a hearing at Lincoln Way Central on the night of September 6th. During the tentative budget is exactly what it's, the name is tentative, and we can make changes all along up until we adopt the budget on September 15th. But we'll as we make changes to the tentative budget, either administratively we think we need to make a change, and then say for instance we have the August 9th, we put a tentative budget out on August 5th. We're going to discuss it August 9th, August 8th. We think we need to make a change before we present it to you. We'll make the change, and we'll put the new change on the website, and we'll even describe what the change was. So we're going to try to be as transparent as we can to always disclose what we're doing with the tentative budget and what changes we're making. But and so those people who are looking at the tentative budget want to have input on it. They just need to keep checking the website to see if there's any changes that we're making with the tentative budget. And certainly, being on public display, they can have a meeting with administration and come and look at it, ask questions. They don't have to wait for the hearing. Anybody in the public can come and discuss the tentative budget and provide information to them.
Thank you. Motion that the school board adopt the resolution to prepare the tentative budget for the fiscal year 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
I have a couple of questions. These are going to seem really naive, and I apologize if they're remedial. So we're already into this fiscal year, right?
Correct.
Do we have a draft, a forecast, or anything that shows us like what we think we were going to spend in July?
Well, we did make a 3-year financial projection for the states. The state required us to make it, and we did make that.
So is that what we're using right now for July to determine if there's any variance or anything that would
Oh, we'll be putting tentative budgets into the system, probably into the system, but there's not much purchasing going on, and as far as needing budget dollars at this time.
It just seems based on what we're going through now, that would be something that we'd want to at least have a draft of something in place so that we can monitor that. I know that the state's deadline and the state schedule is a regulatory kind of set kind of thing, but that would be the minimum expectation, that we have it there by September 30th. I just find it interesting that we're into this budget cycle or this fiscal year, and we don't even have a tentative, like, oh, it was okay to do that in July.
And part of that, I don't have a full-time business manager. And
Okay,
Scott.
Hold
No, I'm going to answer. If Steve had every day with us, we may have that, but I'll also tell you, we are taking our time and doing our due diligence so that the product that is put out there is as accurate as can be.
I understand, and I applaud both Steve and Rich. I think you've done a great job. You two guys that as a person in this district, A+.
Yep.
But I have to ask that question because when I saw this, I just kind of stepped back and said, whoa, we're going to go July, August, and then basically most of September in a situation that when we finally say this is what we're going to do, we could have created either a significant surplus or a significant negative variance in a particular line item. And in our situation, and again, this is hard on the issue, not on the person, that I think going into a 17-18 cycle, this is something we got to get in front of in April.
Sure.
So that when we sit down. But you know what I mean? Just it's the right thing if we're going at this and we're going to really be hard on the issue.
So are you recommending then to adopt a budget in June?
No, I'm saying that.
Or at least be some more tentative.
Right. Right. That if in July we were going to approve a bunch of invoices and bills and things like that, and they'll seem prudent, they'll seem just. If we have questions, we can ask about them. But I don't know if that's a $50,000 variance, a $100,000 variance, and then all of a sudden September we wake up and it's like, whoa, we're $300,000 off on this line item. And that's not. I'm not predicting that. I'm not saying that. I'm just, logically, I would look at this, and again, hard on the issue.
Sure.
Know you're doing the best you can with what you got. That I'm kind of looking out 9 months, 12 months in advance, saying that if we're all still sitting around this table, I'm going to be saying, okay, in April, tell me what July and August are going to look like. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely.
Further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Kozel?
Aye.
Mrs. Glatz?
Aye.
Mr. Lulo?
Aye.
Mr. Kirky?
Aye.
Mr. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Lucetti? Mrs. Molinari?
Aye. 10-year life safety survey.
As I've provided some information to you in your backup material, it's time for a 10-year life safety survey. We do have a price from Dahlquist and Letzo. The price would be, total price $52,953, 5 cents per square foot. In comparison, District 99 recently conducted a similar survey at a cost of 10 cents per square foot. District 202 at a cost of 11 cents per square foot. At the time we put the information together, District 204 was negotiating with the firm, believed 6 and 7 is at the low range for this type of service. So we're looking at a total cost of $52,953 for a life safety survey of both Central and East.
Motion.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Motion to approve the 10-year life safety survey with DLA.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion?
Scott, why is the rate so much cheaper with us than some of the other districts that are bidding for these?
They have the digital blueprints. They have everything in place. If somebody came in from the outside, they would have to create many of those documents. That's in our discussions with them. They have everything in place. They've been our architects. They're familiar with where we are.
And how much, if we had to do any ballpark, what those drawings would be if we had to recreate those?
Don't know. I just know in looking at those other district rates, it would possibly be twice. And you cannot negotiate, as I put in the back of the material, You can only negotiate prices with the architect that is chosen by the board. So if we wanted to get different prices, the board would have to go through the process of an RFQ, select a new architect, then negotiate those prices. If you're not happy with those prices, then you'd have to go through the process to select another one and move to the next architect.
So the agreement that's in place with DLA here was previously approved by the board?
Correct. In November of 2005, they've been our architect.
If down the road we choose a new architect, are those drawings, they're proprietary to the architect, not to us?
The electronic, from what I understand, they own. They give us the blueprints. We have the blueprints.
Gotcha, okay.
That's actually outlined in the original contracts with them, and we go through them. It's very, very specific.
So we're starting over if we go to a different firm.
Yes, correct.
Intents and purposes.
Yeah.
Additional questions?
Is a portion of the fee these additional reimbursable services? I mean, do you have any past history on how much those could be relative to the fee?
I don't, Chris. We can look that up. We, in terms of those additional drawings, since the last 10-year life safety, there's been very little done to our building, two buildings.
Further questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Glatz?
Aye.
Mr. Lulo?
Aye.
Mr. Kirking?
Aye.
Mr. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Lucetti?
Aye.
Mr. Kozel?
Aye.
Mrs. Molinari?
Aye. Temporary easement agreement.
This is something I brought to the board. The last meeting, we had some discussion with the Finance and Building Committee meeting on Tuesday evening. In terms of finding comparable easement rates, it was tough to do. I know Steve had negotiated a couple with ComEd and different things. I did speak with the Village of Tinley today, and currently as it stands, it appears they'll have a right in, right out off of 191st, and a right in, right out off of Harlem. This easement would allow them to clear their space, conduct a haul road to move their dirt, and then they would put it back to its original space. We currently receive $5,000 rent from the farmer. Now, a third of that property is floodplain, and some years they're able to harvest a crop there, some years they're not. They're offering $2,500 for the use of a temporary easement for 1 year. It had been discussed to move it to 6 months, and that's something I believe they would entertain as long as we put the caveat if weather permitting, they could come back to us and ask for an extension. But this would be something that this is a board decision, board discussion. I'll answer any questions that I can.
Motion, one second, let's get a motion on the table. Motion to approve the temporary easement agreement.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion.
I can tell you honestly, with the party that's asking for this is the party that, as I stated previously, both the Building and Finance Committee, is the party that actually had the first bid on this, tied our property up at 191st for a number of years, and quite frankly, his ability to execute on a document and not give the district a short end really is in debate in my mind, and I can't in good faith sign another document with him that's going to tie up any dollars on this district's behalf and possibly put us. The other thing is if we go to sell this, having this haul road in there, could it hurt our chances? And for the $2,500, I just don't think it's worth it.
Okay, I'm going to preface this within the spirit of the concept that it is our short-term objective to try to sell this property. Would that be an accurate statement? I would think so. Yes. I just want to make sure, because if this is buy and hold, then I'm done. But if this is, I know you have, I know we have. It was an obvious question, I just put it out there to make sure. Okay, because we're trying to sell this property, and you mentioned earlier tonight that you're going to bring up appraisals in your report. Correct. The first and foremost person I would ask whether we should be doing this or not is the appraiser. Okay, because I have no idea how an easement, as temporary as it may appear, because you made a comment, it appears they're going to have a right-in, right-out on Harlem. Harlem is a state road. The Village of Tinley Park cannot give them that